Behold the ruins of the estate of Nick Bacon. You guys thought I was lying.
Yes, I am Nick Bacon, and this is a video.
Look at this. Look, I'm back. I'm back in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm liking it quite a bit. Yes, quite a bit. Yeah, I've been in London for the past 6 months or so. I think if I'd known when I took on the gig how long and all-encompassing it was going to be, I wouldn't have taken it on. Like, having done it, I'm really glad I did, because I met a bunch of incredible people, you know, friends for life, and learned a lot. I learned a lot. And just if nothing else, when you work from home year after year after year, I think it's kind of good to break things up into chapters sometimes, so you have any idea of what happened when. So in this case, it's like, yeah, 2024 to 2025, went to London for 6 months, and it's like a chapter break. So that feels good. Yeah, I still can't tell you much about the project, but I will be able to at some point. London itself is fine. If you live in London and you're depressed, I understand. Loved your old man. You've got the best old man in the world. I don't understand how the teenagers I saw turn into the old. I don't know where the old men come from. But like holding the door at a pub or something, some old guy shuffles through and is like, "Cheers, mate." Like, best thing in the world, unparalleled. I'm still kind of in the come down a little bit, and I'm just kind of all over the place. I keep having people call me out of nowhere, and it's like I haven't switched into social mode, and so they're just getting full frazzled Ian all the time. In fact, yeah, I'm just going to show you kind of some of what I've been working on, what I'm going to be working on. I was going to try to put a tutorial into this video, but I think this is just kind of going to be a welcome back to myself orientation type thing, kind of let you know what I'm still working on, what my plans are. There's a lot of fun stuff happening. It's keeping me awake at night. What are we up to? We are up to boat episode, because one of the things about kind of going hard for 9 hours a day on somebody else's project is the whole time I'm thinking, what if I were going this hard on my own project? Because I like to think I have a pretty good work ethic, but like just sitting and working for 9 hours, knowing that like you're going to have to present what you're working on kind of like at the end of the day, so you have to have something to show. It's given me this drive to do that sort of thing, just to make some progress on the boat episode. Like, it's been a better part of 3 years. We filmed the boat episode back in 2022, and just the weight of time passing, and you know the usual knowledge of just how long this stuff takes, despite all of my best efforts, is getting me a little bit. We've got the spaceship stuff coming up, which again is written to be fairly optimized. So I'm just trying to kind of get this thing wrapped up as good as I can. And at least for the moment, I am lowering my standards a little bit. Like, I'm not trying to make each shot be like, gee whiz. I'm just kind of trying to make it so it does the story beat. So hopefully people are being carried along by the story, and it's not like the previous episode where it's like, look at all this crazy CG all the time. But this shot I did last night, we filmed this entire scene in 20 minutes, literally. We'd run out of kind of hours in the day, and they said, well, we've got 20 minutes left before everybody has to be gone. But I looked at Johnny Valencia, the DP, and the actors, and we were like, yeah, I think we can kind of do this. So we just stuck some magnet lights up there, which you can probably kind of tell, and we just got one close-up of each of the actors and one wide. And I wish I'd gotten a little bit more coverage. The edit's a little bit rough, but the scene does work. Yeah, we were always filming kind of against these white walls, because it was either that or they're supposed to be in the middle of this sci-fi environment type thing, but obviously off the boat we just have Seattle, and so we were either signing ourselves up for, you know, a lot of standing in front of boring white walls or a lot of roto. And if I'd realized how much easier like the automated roto stuff was gonna get, I might have leaned into that actually a little bit more. But yeah, this was our original shot. You know, I just tracked the camera and I shift the whole thing over like this, which means I had to rebuild, you know, the railing, and I used this box right here to hide the seam a little bit. I didn't even match the colors of this particularly well. I'm projecting the footage back onto this geometry here. But the bit that was really exciting is when she comes in, I used Resolve's new updated magic mask tool, which is just, I just clicked on her. And this is not great footage to try this on, but it's like, it just worked. Even where her hair is kind of like barely blending against the dark background. Like, it works, and it doesn't jitter particularly much. I've got a little bit of the wires coming up here, but I could have just swiped that and that would have fixed it. That's very, very exciting, and that kind of helps hide this seam right here. But the thing I've been doing recently is I put all my footage into a collection, and I just turn that into a mask thing. So it's still affecting everything else. Like, you can see I made this a little bit magnetic, so you can see faint reflections of like what's going on here, which helps tie everything together. But then I just render this out, and I just drop that EXR sequence into the timeline, and then I just have to in the timeline shift the original footage over to match everything up, but that's my entire composite, is just dropping it over in the timeline. And if I want, I can use an adjustment layer to kind of, you know, diffuse things and kind of tie everything together. But yeah, for just like, you know, an hour or two of putting stuff together, now this is 30 seconds of stuff that I wouldn't be embarrassed having this in the timeline, really. I'm doing a lot more with rigid body simulations. This whole cable coming down, it still needs to be composited because you can see there's a lot of like flaring from the light coming in up here, and that flaring isn't present on the CG. But once we do that, I think that'll actually tie everything together pretty good. But yeah, this whole cable is this giant multi-segmented rigid body sim with like a lot of constraints and everything. And it looks really good from certain angles, like especially when I have things a little bit offset. There's this kind of like harmonic thing where everything's kind of affecting everything else, and it's like, ooh. But because of the nature of this shot, by the time it tilts down, it just looks like this is linearly, like, you know, up, and it's going up, and it's like, no, if you're looking along the cable, everything's happening. But that's okay, it's all right. Again, I'm just trying to kind of keep things moving. I do like this weird kind of waterproof sack thing. I'm gonna be putting sacks on everything. Or there's this bit where she's trying to keep the birds off of the shortwave, and I was going crazy for like years. I'm like, how am I gonna do these birds? It's obviously just a picture of birds on telephone lines flying away that I was able to stick up there. Like if you look right here, the cable's kind of sliding around, but I'm like, you know what? Again, just for that beat in the story, that's all we need. And if I ever want to go through and spend a month creating a bird flapping thing, I can do birds flapping and I can do birds sitting there, but the chaos of where like a pigeon is like, I'm gonna fly, that's really hard to do, and I don't think I could really capture that because it's so chaotic that I wanted to lean into stock footage about that. This shot, I want to add some sort of weird, you know, superstructure thing sticking out, and then we could tilt up from that, and you'd see, you know, like they're going through a big sluice gate type thing that I'll be putting together. Got some big full digital shots that hopefully I can blend into this. I just kind of want it to be this seamless mishmash, which again, even as I say that, I'm like, this is going to be way more CG than I like to believe. But the plan, because I do have a plan right now, and that's kind of what I wanted to tell you in this video. I've broken this entire episode down into sequences, and in general, every single sequence could be done very easily in a week. So I'm like, all right, if I just am finishing one scene every week, and that's going to give me a lot of different things to make tutorials on and all of that, and then at maximum in like 6 weeks, all the CG is done for the episode, and then I can send it off to sound, and I can go back and I can do some polishing and love and all of that. So that's kind of my plan right now. We've got scenes like this where lots of people are kind of looking at something, and so we'll have that. Then I come up with what they're looking at, and then a final kind of shot of like the little digital doubles sitting on the boat looking at the thing to tie it all together. Those are the shots that I think are really going to elevate the whole episode, because we got really good, well, you know, pretty good poor man's scans of all of the actors in their costumes. And so if I go wide enough, you'll actually be able to see, you know, them running around, and I think that'll be the final thing to integrate everything. But one thing I want to tackle, and maybe this will be one of the first scenes that I go after. There's a lot of scenes that take place in the map room, which is this space right here. And there's this big purple light, which is supposed to be some sort of screen. We do a lot of, that's kind of the exposition screen we're looking at. You get a sense of the lay of the land and the threats and kind of where they're trying to get to. And we see it a lot. It gets a solid couple minutes of screen time, which means it's worth kind of putting some thought into. I got this wide shot specifically so that we could like frame it a little bit. I can add, here, I'll show you what I've been doing. Did my usual thing of projecting back onto the geometry. Again, I'll link below how we do all that. I don't want to explain that every single time because it's boring and basically always the same. But what's nice about this is because we do have the CG is the light source, that's going to be really effective in helping integrate it with the footage right here. Like this cube just kind of matching that same color pink, which I can do, like here's the emission of this plane right here. I just use the eyedropper and hold down shift and drag it across something white to kind of get that color. And then I turn the value up, or kind of to the point where it feels like it's matching. Same with like right here, you can see there's this light kind of hitting him, and it looks like it's kind of coming from like this angle right here. So I just stuck a light there, and then with the eyedropper tool, I selected something that feels kind of whitish. I think this might already be kind of like an eggshell white or something. Select that color, turn with the value, turn down the saturation a little bit till it's just kind of feeling natural. There's a lot of give in this, I think. There's a lot of flexibility. But yeah, then in the foreground here, I can just start adding modules. I want it to feel like we're in the machinery, kind of looking out into the room, and I want to use that machinery to kind of define the composition a little bit. This is going to be our hero shot, I think, of all of these scenes. But I also want to show off kind of how cool this actual room is. There's a lot of fun stuff in here. I think I want to have some big module down here that we're going to be seeing some stuff kind of happening right there. I don't want it to feel like it's cutting into him too much, so maybe we'll kind of do that. Pull that over. Extrude. Maybe a little cube. Up here I'll have some monitors. I want it to feel like this is kind of the nerve center of the whole space. And so just here, let's it feels weird it's cutting off that light like that. So I'm gonna Control B, Alt E, extrude faces along normals to kind of tuck that in. Yeah, okay. And here, let's try darkening up. Well, we'll figure out what this is in a second here. Right now, compositionally, this kind of feels like a sandwich. Like, we got the top bun, we got the footage, we got a lower bun. And so I want there to be something awkward kind of going through this, you know, to break up the whole thing and make it not feel as if we're just like something like that maybe. And then we like mirror it to kind of make it feel like there's part of the ship structure or something. Here, maybe if I tuck it back here like that. And that we've kind of got this radial thing going on. And then also, they all get up and they walk away. So I've got to make sure that none of this is, I might have to like roto his head because I think he goes in front of that. But otherwise, I think all of this holds up pretty good. So one of the things that's cool about this is because I'm projecting the footage onto this emissive geometry, you know, just plugging the footage into an emissive shader here, it is taking part in the actual lighting of the scene. Like obviously I've got this big screen right here going, but if I add some little icospheres down here kind of on top of this desk, you can see there's this kind of like, it depending on where things are at, the scene is already kind of lighting stuff, and I didn't even really have to do any work on the lighting. That's just a byproduct of setting up the scene. One thing that's kind of a bummer, I love this fan on this pipe right here. For me, this kind of makes the whole space. It's the reason I walked in here and was like, oh, I want to shoot here. So the fact that we're adding this big map is kind of a bummer. But if that's the case, maybe I'll just move this forwards a little bit. I like that. Yeah, and we just make sure this guy never goes in front of it when he's sitting up. No, it doesn't. Oh, that's perfect. Not that I'm trying to design everything to avoid roto, but I kind of am, yeah. Here, let's darken up this material too, just to see what that kind of does compositionally. And if I like, again, this is just the blocking stage. This is just to see how much I like things before I actually sink any time in. Like, is it worth actually modeling things up? And then like I was talking about in the other shot, I'm going to take my footage element here, hit M, put it into a new composition. We'll call this footage. And if I turn on masking right here, I can click that. And if I run this out, I can just drop it on top of the original clip and everything should play nice. I could stick a little light up here to kind of like, in fact, maybe I'll make it an area light just to kind of match the directionality of this lamp. And I could just grab a color from the inside here. Oh yeah, that does quite a bit. And this whole shot is a little bit of a battle between the pinks and the yellows. So I might, even though the light up here actually seems from that reflection like it might be pretty white, I might push it into the yellow area just to tie the CG back compositionally into that pink versus yellow. The pink is the inside, the yellow is outside of that, and then if I can apply kind of, there's a darker area outside of that, we've got a good color value composition thing going on, you know? But okay, what about the screen itself? And something I know I've talked about before, it's an idea I'm kind of obsessed with exploring lately, especially after like the last 6 months, because I was doing a lot of concept art, and it's one thing to make something that kind of looks cool, but I keep thinking of art and any endeavor as a container for what you're putting your energy and ideas into. And so I like being very deliberate about putting something into the container. Like I could just start taking, you know, doing this and being like, all right, let's start doing screen shapes, and I could add little things and, you know, just up-resing everything until it's like whatever. But there's a psychological element to that. Like when the viewer or the audience is looking at the thing, if you've just done a bunch of kind of sci-fi looking stuff, even if it looks cool, there's no intrinsic promise that there's anything more to it, if that makes sense. Like it's really easy to take a shape and add a bunch of greebles and like people will see it and go, whoa, there's a lot of like little details, but eventually your brain picks up that there's nothing actually to kind of look at. And this is a thing I think is really important. Maybe shrink this up a little bit. I want to kind of get that modular feeling. Although now it kind of feels like there's just all these islands of stuff, you know? So maybe I'll like just nestle it into the... Yeah, that's feeling pretty good. But yeah, so the idea I want for this is that it's not going to be digital. It's going to be completely analog, like old school stuff. Because that's one of the themes of this whole boat, is that it's supposed to be kind of like, it's this relic from an older time that these guys are kind of keeping together just through sheer gumption. This guy's navigating. He's the map navigator, and he's got a little keypad that's kind of clicking around. And so I think I want this map to be like a microfilm, a microfiche type setup, which was this really cool way of storing stuff. You'd have these cards, you know, they're only like this big, but each one of these little squares here is an entire page that's been shrunk down to be, you know, like the size of a thumbnail. And then you'd use a machine that, you know, oh, these look so cool. But yeah, you'd use this machine right here, and it would literally just shine a light through it and project it off of a mirror onto this translucent screen here, so you could see the pages blown up. And it was a really easy way of like storing lots of backlogs of newspapers and things like that. So what I'm thinking is, like, imagine there was an atlas of maps of the area, and they put each one of the pages into one of the microfiche things. And so if you're traveling across one of the pages and you get, you know, too far north, then it would kind of automatically go down and reset you here. And so there's all this kind of quick little intermediary, very analog mechanical stuff kind of going on. And maybe once you reach the edge and it has to change to another one of these pages, the whole thing just kind of disappears and goes blank. In fact, something I think would be really fun is if up here we have these cartridges. This would be ridiculously overbuilt. Like, you could just have all of it in the monitor. But the idea that once everything, you know, you go too far north and then the screens go and we get some cartridges. Oh, I love cartridges that go . So that could be cool for the map. And maybe it's like a 2-layer system too. There's the map layer, and then there's kind of an annotation notes layer that's like hovering maybe fractionally out of focus and kind of with like a slight offset on top of that, where they've obviously added their notes of like dangers and, you know, pitfalls and warnings and all that type of stuff. Just you get those layers of history on top of there. And the cool thing about this is that it's really easy to set up in a path tracer. Here, let's go new, make this layer translucent. I'm gonna create a point light back here and turn up the radius. And then if I create some text right here and go to rendered view, you can see, like, it's out of focus. The closer we bring it into the translucent screen, you know, we're seeing it casting that shadow on there. So I can do this, but with like a layer of transparency. If I've got here, yeah, let's pick this random, yeah, we'll pick that sign right there. Cool. And if we change the shader to be transparent instead, plug that image into that. There we go. Now that image is kind of just doing the same thing. And if we plug this through a color ramp here, we can kind of increase the contrast. And again, the closer we get it to the screen, the more in focus it's going to be. But I like kind of the softness of just keeping it a little bit far away. So here, I'm going to turn on auto keyframing, and I'm just going to go ahead like 3 frames here, pull this down. I'm going to overshoot a little bit, and on the next frame, I'm going to snap it back as if there's just a little bit of elasticity to it, and then go ahead a couple frames, hit I to insert another keyframe, go ahead 3 more, pull it up to the screen, pull it back a little bit, and what does that feel like? Yeah, that's great. So if we have multiple kind of panels and stuff going around like that, I think that could feel really fun. And of course, this light would be very pink. Cool. And the last thing I got to do is kind of come up with the look of the slides themselves. And for that, I'm just going to look at a bunch of reference. I'm not looking for anything I can lift directly. I'm just trying to absorb ideas about design language and values and types of shapes and things, and like cross-referencing that with what I know how to do easily in Blender. So we can kind of try to come up with an easy, because I don't want to spend weeks hand making all of these maps. I know the basic shapes of what I want to imply and communicate to the audience. And I'm hoping I can kind of come up with a procedural system that fills in the rest. It's okay to look really complicated because this is supposed to be kind of like not really a place for people. I like this one. I like kind of having this neutral gray type thing with like solid areas of black and white, the really defined buildings. The idea of the water being a lighter color like this, like being the thing that's most immediately red, is good because they're traveling by boat, and so I want that to be the shape that we quickly see. Like right here, this is really cool. Just the fact that the water is this solid white and everything else is just this very, very dense texture. I love how that looks. And if this were layered with any sort of like little bit of technical, little labels and things like that. Okay, I just typed in technical map, getting some good stuff here. I like these little lines. I wonder what those are all about, actually. But the thing I need to keep in mind is this is supposed to communicate something to the audience pretty effortlessly. Like, it's really easy to overdo UI stuff so that it just looks like a bunch of things and the audience's brain kind of turns off. I want them to just not be able to help it. They see kind of what's going on. Yeah, something like this where it's like, we're trying to get here, but we're here. And the audience goes, okay, so they got to go that way. I like this too, where it's black on white. That's pretty rad. I wish I could do colors, but I think everything is going to be so pink that like I could maybe get one accent color for maybe the notes page. Like if that were like a bright neon yellow or like a highlighter yellow on top of like the dull pink, maybe that could be a thing. Love these overlays. Again, it'd be really easy to just add a bunch of grids and little markings and stuff over the top of the map, but I think we would do that at the expense of immediate readability for the audience. So I'm going to want to be kind of tasteful with how I do that. Ooh, this kind of dot matrixy thing. That's pretty fun. And now we're just in like weird technical art illustration land. I love this. I like Pinterest a lot. It's just so full of dense ideas that you can kind of absorb. It's criticized for being, pretty flooded with AI stuff. And if you click on anything that's, too AI, it takes you to AI world really fast. But I think it's still possible to avoid it pretty good. What is this? The difficulty I always have with maps is I love maps a lot. Like, it's just this very dense graphic thing, like designed solely to communicate information using all of these like specific design languages and all of that. And it can be so dense that it's a little bit overwhelming if you want to kind of like, do the map justice or whatever. And so like the fact that I'm going into this trying to figure out how can I do this without actually doing too much work, like I resent that. Like some part of me wants to do the work, But that's where maybe I just take, a full 9-hour day and just go, okay, we're going to spend 9 hours trying to come up with some procedural system, putting the work into that. What I really need to do is watch through all the map room scenes, make a specific list of every beat and thing that's supposed to be conveyed and kind of how long it's supposed to take so I can just design the monitor, animate the whole thing just on its own so it fulfills every function it's supposed to have, and then I can link that into whatever scene or shot it needs to be in. Like this one, I could just sync up the animation of the screen to whatever it's supposed to be doing in the shot. In fact, instead of doing that whole mechanical thing, I was talking about with all the moving slides, I might pre-render all of that so it's just a video file that's on the screen so I can easily just change the start frame and offset that animation, and everything should work pretty easily. It's a bunny. Okay, let's see if this starts. Let's see if this even has gas in it. Get some gas? Huh, oh, well, Scooter keeps dying, and this keeps stopping recording, nothing wants to go. I wonder if the battery just can't keep up. I can put you guys on this. Okay, you're still recording, that's good. Scooter died again. It's getting happier. A giant spider will crawl out of this onto me as I'm riding, I do know that. We got lots of mold in the helmet. We can fix that with vinegar. The usual test of what's in these bottles. Ooh, vinegar! And it gives my head that nice vinegar smell. Honestly, everything gets moldy every winter and you just kind of get used to it. If you don't touch something about once a week, the mold takes over. Yeah, I'll wear that. It's still going! Okay, I'll be right back. This is the only place I can clamp it. All right. Let's go to the beach. Okay, so I think I'm going to do each panel as a square. I'm going to create a camera, Alt-R to make it look straight down. On the camera settings, set it to orthographic so that everything is just perspective free. Bring it up here a little bit. Make it square by just going, 1080 by 1080. Then I'm just going to create a little plane here and start extruding. Watford in the wintertime, enough beauty to make you cry, if you know what I mean. know what I mean. And you can't eat the swans. They tell me you can't eat the swans. They keep on saying, hey, you can't eat the swans. Who's gonna eat the swans, guys? It kind of looks like I'm just extruding a bunch. This does not really have a map-like quality. It's supposed to look like a bunch of different drainage canals for some giant, factory, and it kind of just looks like a bunch of gibberish. But I don't know how else to do it, so I'm just gonna keep going and see how it pans out. And so I did, and it was a lot of muttering to myself and confusion and trying things, and it wasn't great television. So I'm just going to go over what I did kind of after the fact. I like how the map turned out. This is kind of my timing test to see if it works in the edit. Then I'm going to actually put it onto the actual monitor itself. The one thing that's weird, obviously, is that because the water and land are kind of equal, there isn't a positive and negative space, so you don't know what you're supposed to be looking at. But I think that's okay. It's supposed to be a really complicated, kind of over-the-top map. And I'm kind of torn because I could just have, a dotted line go doot, 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 and that would immediately, obviously express to the audience what's going on. But I can't help but wonder, what mechanism would be making the dotted line and how would they have that data to even do that to begin with. One of my kind of more nerdy pet peeves is in a spy movie or something where they've got the holographic building and the dotted lines and everything going together. I'm like, who put that together? Who stayed up until 4 a.m. being like, oh, he's going to be doing his little clicky presentation. I've got to make my slideshow for the infiltrating the evil base. But that's where it's not always about realism as much as it's making sure that the audience can be on board with the story. But I'm still kind of torn. I think if nothing else, I should label the destination just to really drive that home. But also tried to figure out kind of a visual system for how they send up the new course to the helmsman, which I think reads okay. But yeah, for making the map itself, this thing I put together didn't really work until I started putting in these larger kind of pieces to really read. I needed something that was proper negative space instead of just everything being squiggles. And suddenly I was like, okay, no, I get this. So then you got kind of, major details, medium details, and I wanted to add a lot of little kind of micro details. So I just modeled a few kind of building shapes and put them into a particle system to scatter them around like this, which honestly works better than I expected. And I might have to lean into this a little bit for some of the actual shots too, just for if I ever want to do a really big wide shot of the whole thing, that I can model kind of specific larger stuff sticking out of it. But yeah, I rendered this with a height map shader, and my thought being, this automatically could help me isolate the tallest buildings if I wanted to, so I can kind of use a threshold to dial in how many buildings actually are highlight if I wanted. I also did a couple renders straight out of the viewport, because in the viewport everything has this nice outline. I actually kind of like this look, but if you hit render, that all goes away. But if you go to view and then just viewport render image, you can just save exactly how it looks in the viewport. So this is solid view, and this is a very washed out version that I think I kind of tried to do the same thing but on the actual map itself, and it just had all these dorky little cubes sitting around. But then I just layered those together, and it kind of works. You get places like this where the building is obviously, it's just overlaid over something else, but I think it works enough to get that. I just wanted those dense details. Also added this kind of diagonal overlay that made it feel a little bit more hand drafted, I guess. Oh, that's something I can tell you. I got to work with some ladies who actually did old blueprint drafting for designing props and sets and stuff. Most of it's done in Rhino, but there were some gals who just did it totally old school. And it was I got to model 3D assets based off of the plans that they'd give me. And it was because they do the 3 different quarter view and talk about the materials and how everything was manufactured. It was art. It was absolutely incredible. And I could just literally bring it into Blender, model on top of it, and then when it came time to render the other view, I could just rotate it and it would line up with their hand-drawn blueprints perfectly. It was crazy. It was really cool. But yeah, to layer this stuff, I just kept starting all these new blend files, and I'd kind of do my little composites right here in the viewport. So I could dial in the balance of, how dense these little overlays and everything were. This is that threshold I was talking about, and so if I really wanted, I could make the big buildings be red or whatever, which is kind of a cool look, but again, I had to keep the whole thing monochromatic. Then to really sell it, the United States government has all these public domain, old soil surveys and stuff, and so I just took some of these. Look at that. Oh, that's cool. That's way cooler than anything I'm actually doing. That's gorgeous. Yeah, I think I took this key here, and I took this outer border, which means my maps all say they're a soil map of Wisconsin too, unless if I decide to go in and change that. I love this, just the layer. I think all of this is hand-drawn. That's fantastic. And just the aesthetic of all of these different overlapping squares at different angles, That's really fun. Yep, soil map of Wisconsin. So I came up with this one border and then subdivided the overall map to kind of make that microfiche chip we were talking about. And I also kept rendering things a little bit too low res and then saving things, over themselves and all of that, which means things started we started to get generational loss a little bit. Like this stuff actually feels like it has ink bleed and everything, and I think that's just kind of JPEG artifacts and, pushing thresholds further than they should be. It feels a little bit wet in a way that I liked a lot. All this map gibberish and all the lines and stuff in the water is maybe a bit much, but because it's the lightest part of the map, I can just use a threshold and basically just knock that out as much as I want. You can see here it just kind of subconsciously reads as like little labels and things like that. But yeah, that's as far as I got with that. It feels really good to have like anything in the edit that you can actually kind of watch. I also just like the scalability. I don't do high res stuff a lot, so the fact you can kind of see this wide view of the map and then just zoom all the way in and still kind of like, we could walk around here and do, and then like, whoa, it's so big. And this place is supposed to be huge, so there'd actually probably be, tons of these things. Like, it's supposed to be like 50 miles across or something nuts like that. Now I just keep getting distracted. Sometimes if I come back to a shot after not looking at it for a while, like all the problems that I was frustrated with for days back when I was first working on it seem really obvious. And so I'm going back through all these old shots being like, hey, maybe I could really easily like make this better. And in most cases, the answer is actually no. But I did set up these little rigid body buoys. I'm going to parent them to these vertices here. Did that just do it with Control P? It didn't give me any confirmation. And with any luck, these should follow the old cloth sim. Oh, look at that. I like the motion. I think this could actually be working really good. The only problem is only this one seems to actually be sticking to the rope. So it's probably because I did like linked instances instead of actually like Shift D, I did Alt D, I guess. And I want there to be people on the boat. So I've got this guy, I kind of simulated shake it out of net once. It doesn't look great, but here, Control G. Let's see if we can just link in the cloth sim and everything. I can never remember if that works. Net guy. Link. Net guy. Oh, and it's working. Oh, it plays back really fast too. That's really good. And then we put him somewhere where his silhouette will add some life. Though his net hangs down, so maybe I'll just kind of stick him and parent him to the boat. And I ended up deleting, oh, it looks like this isn't even connected. It's fishing line. Real thin. I also filmed all these seagulls when I was in Brighton and turned them into a little video file. I should upload these. My phone's autofocus was kind of being a little bit weird, so it's not like the greatest asset, but we'll see how it works in the background. I just want to add a little bit of that shimmery seagull life. It's a minute and a half per frame, 100 frames. So in 2 hours, I could have a new version of this shot. Let's see what happens. I gotta get dinner. So let's make shrimp fried rice. I haven't really been eating good since I got back, so I think my body is getting very unhappy. So let's make some food. Green onions. I like these. I'm gonna use a lot of them. I'm gonna wash them. This one's too limp. I really like green onions, and so I'm gonna add way too many, which is the best part about cooking. People are like, Ian, why is this so good? It's like, well, I used 5 sticks of butter. That's way too much green onion. Now the garlic. Embarrassingly, most of my experience cooking for most of my life was going up to people and being like, can I help? And they would invariably tell me to chop the onions and peel the garlic, which are the 2 worst parts because it makes you cry and you get all sticky. And I get enough of that from my love life. And of course, everybody loves to tell you if you smash it first, that makes it easier to get the outer stuff off, which is true. These are fat cloves of garlic. I think this is way too much. And normally this is where I start chopping it like crazy, but I'm a grown man. I finally got a garlic press. Let's see if it works. Oh, it does. Gross. Let's do another. Oh, yeah. That's a lot of garlic. Apparently I already had one. I did not buy this one. Oh, this one even has like a thing that helps clean out the holes. I love life. People tell you to do this weird knuckle thing. I don't get that. I'm just gonna hold it like a regular person. Put oil in there. Oh yeah. I like to ask my chef friends, like, hey, can you give me like a cooking tip? And one said, the most important thing is to let your pan come up to heat before you put anything in it. Which doesn't make any sense, because I feel like you should be able to like put everything in there and kind of bring it up the heat and see how it goes, but I'm taking his word for it. I put oil in here. I'm gonna put butter in there too. I think the secret to cooking is dollops. Dollop? This is my specialty, oiled butter. Keeping it moving. What if you had a date over and you just gave them fried butter? I got this chicken pre-cut, cause I can. The real trick to chicken is that this stuff is gonna cook, but the raw stuff on the spoon isn't, cause it's over here. So you just have to not think about that. Salmonella is like ghosts. It can only get you if you believe in it, you know? Gonna add salt and pepper. I think you can add a lot of pepper. I've never eaten anything and been like, this is too peppery. I think, ooh, I like pepper. The nice thing about cooking from home is you save money on groceries. All of this only cost me like $600. This is Asian, so we're gonna put soy sauce in it. All right. Gonna melt some more butter. Gonna scramble some eggs. Get this butter everywhere. Let's see what this does. I'm just gonna irritate it a little bit. Oh, it hates that. Ooh, these are good eggs. Look at that, we got some eggs. And I've never used this before, but my friend Scott Curvin gave it to me. It looks like this lets you just hover it. It's getting hot. We're gonna do another dollop. Does the garlic even go in this? I don't know, probably. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, all right, let's put in our, all of the garlic. Oh, and immediately everything smells good. Here's more stuff I didn't even have to chop. How great is that? Let's do all of it. I'm gonna make so much fried rice. I have never done this before, but this is the time when I have to tell you the secret to making fried rice, and that's that you have to have already made the rice via time travel. Fried rice works better when it's a little bit dried out, so it kind of stays a little bit crispy, which means you want to make it the day before and just like leave it in the fridge for 24 hours so it kind of gets a little crunchy. If you haven't done this, I am so sorry. And this already has carrots in it, but I wanted to chop things. Can't let them have all the fun at the vegetable chopping factory. Something else that's kind of cool, you can get shrimp pre-cooked, which means you just have to heat it up. Maybe pull off the tail. You can like fry it in butter and put some, I like to use some like Cajun seasoning and stuff and put that in pasta with a lot of butter, and it's delicious. Unfortunately, they're very frozen, so I'm gonna run them under cold water. Why do you run them under cold water instead of hot water? I don't know, man. Let's put our eggs in there, because why not? Let's put our chicken in there too. Something I believe weirdly intensely is that food should have colors in it. And so sometimes, like, I'll have chives or little tomatoes cut up and put them on top just to, like, expand the palette chromatically. Like, if you make shrimp pasta, everything's just kind of beige. You gotta put a little tomato or something on it. Sesame oil. Oh, yeah. More soy sauce. Dollop, 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 dollop. And oyster sauce made from real oysters. I don't know what this stuff is. I'll be honest, I'm just remaking somebody else's tutorial that I'll link below. He's a really good guy. I've watched him a couple times, and this looked delicious. More soy sauce. And the shrimp are thawed enough to get the tails off, so let's just pinch off the tails, stick it in there. There's probably a rule like you're not supposed to do chicken and shrimp, but I've been feeling very hungry lately, so as many animals... There's a lot of juices down in the bottom here, so I might let some of these kind of evaporate. Or maybe they'll just soak into the rice. Let's start putting the rice in. Is this right? It's still pretty wet. Yeah, alright. Let's break that up a little bit. Come on. Hopefully it breaks up easier as it gets warmer. This is so much food. More soy sauce. Sesame oil. This is the best, but I love adding little stuff at the end. Oh, chives. More chives. Break up this rice, man. Oh, it's burning. I don't know how. Just gotta move it more. And look, see, here's the thing. This doesn't look intentional. Oh, well, okay. I mean, it's a little amateur hour, but it's, Then you sit alone at your table and, remember the good times. No, this is actually pretty good. Like, the chicken's a little bit white boy chicken, but overall, this is great. And it should keep okay, so I should have leftovers for the next few days. Yeah, it's about 4 times more garlic than I probably needed in retrospect. Did I tell you guys about this? One time I saw a giant spider crawling across my wall, like a big one, and it crawled into the headphones and kind of just like curled up and hid in there. And so now every time I put on the headphones, I'm like, is it gonna... Now the render's done, and That's definitely a rigid body simulation hanging from a rope. I think the fact it's also like the full middle of the screen, like this looks like the most important thing in the entire shot now. So I might increase the vertex weight and turn. It looks like it's made out of like a red gummy bear or something. Is it a glass shader? It shouldn't be, but I like this a lot better. Yeah, so this is a cloth sim. Then on top of the cloth sim, I've got this little particle system going down, and on top of that, I've got, you know, the rigid body simulation. The actual cloth sim seems like the worst part. I don't buy this motion of the rope, but that's okay. But yeah, it's doing the same thing here. Got a dynamic paint ripple going with like a video texture of a wake going on top of that with like a little bit of a displacement map to kind of try to give it a little bit of actual volume, and that's working pretty good. Actually, there's a really cool guy named Danny who managed the boat as we're filming on it. And normally, if you get a big film crew on a location, you know the location's freaking out the whole time because people are, you know, moving stuff around and messing with everything. And Danny was like, "It's a giant metal boat. What can you guys do?" But he actually built like a little boat as a hobby, and so I might pester him and see if he can take me out, and I can try to film some custom little foam stuff that I could share here. That would be really useful. This other boat going in the back here, that works really good. Ooh, it's because we can't see it very well, but I'll take it. Also, yeah, that guy, he's a digital double, but he doesn't read digitally. He feels a lot more lifelike than I expected, which is very much what I'm hoping that the wide shots of the boat will feel like. Just having little people where you're like, sell the boat. Because normally I'm trying to design my entire scene to kind of hide the inhumanity of the digital people. Like, oh, there's a lot of smoke and camera shake. Just don't look too close. But I'm kind of hoping it can work the other way this time, where I've got this big static CG boat and I can put little people on it and just bring the whole thing to life. I feel like Blender 4.4 is treating light or something differently. This feels more tangible than the version I'm used to. Oh, I forgot they added ray portals and the thin film stuff. I gotta actually play around with that. And okay, if nothing else, 4.2 improved the volume light sampling, which, yeah, I've noticed it's a lot faster now. 4.3 added new phase functions. Wait. They've got a new pull down. I didn't notice that. That's really cool. So I guess this one's the default. We've been using Rayleigh's for atmospheric, underwater, interstellar scattering, and fogs and cloud. What's the difference between clouds and fog and atmospheric? They're probably meaning like denser clouds. Well, let's do Rayleigh. Ooh, I'm excited to play around with that. So if I change this haze to Rayleigh, how does it feel? That actually does feel a little more tactile. Here, let's see, go back to... This one just feels a little milky. Well, that's pretty cool. Oh, for comparison, this is what it looked like before. And not bad, but like, I don't buy it, you know? Like, this doesn't, it's, and there's a lot of things I changed. I changed the color grade too. This is a little bit too low contrast and saturated. I have too much atmospheric haze just in general. Also, somebody left a YouTube comment once that my digital camera moves felt a little floaty, and I think they're right. I'm really grateful for kind of harsh YouTube comments sometimes, because like that's how you learn. Unless if they're wrong, in which case I don't. But like in cases like this, I'll do a couple quick keyframes to kind of be like, this is what I want the camera to do. And I kind of relied on the camera shake, a camera shakeify add-on Nathan and I made to add the realism. But you can't just add camera shake on top of like, a really basically animated camera, which is what I was trying to do here. I was trying to make the edit work by matching the flow of motion of the kind of the awkward cut I was doing in the middle of this oneer right here. It's like, look at that. Oh, it's seamless. But I didn't buy it. Also, I was always using the wedding preset from Camera Shakeify because it's kind of the most subtle, but it's also the most drifty. So I changed it from that, which again is just an undulation, to the walking preset, just because that has slightly sharper angles and it feels more, you can feel the person behind the lens a little bit more in a way that I think kind of helps. And yeah, this thing definitely has the transmission up here. Let's turn that down, and that's more what it's supposed to look like here. Let's try, if we give it a coat, does that make it look wet? Yeah, it does. And I might delete the bake and try baking this again with the vertex weight up a little bit, just to give it a little bit more inertia so it's not as crazy shaky. Still looks like it's moving a bit too much, so I'm going to add a force field and see if I can just damp everything down. Just create some drag. And I can never remember, is this one of the ones where you need like a little bit, or you have to set it to like 11,000 or something like that? Here, let's just try 100, see what happens. Let's try 6. Bake. I start a lot of my scenes like 100 frames before they actually start, although I should probably even do more, just so that like the physics systems have time to settle before the actual beginning of the start. So here it'll kind of be going crazy, but then hopefully around frame 100, it's doing what we want. And it's spinning, but maybe that's kind of cool as long as it doesn't spin too fast. Also have to make sure it's not spinning like way faster than I think. Okay, yeah, that's cool. I'm still trying to find the aesthetic reference for the monitor display casing that goes around the screen. Something that kind of matches the boat, but also feels like its own kind of thing. I kind of have two different visual languages going on. There's the actual boat itself that we filmed on, which is just a little bit too clean, glossy white maritime, and then I've got my CG boat, which is a little bit too dusty, rusty, covered in little greebles and everything. And so I'm always kind of trying to split the difference a little bit. I really like something like this. I mean, obviously this is so cool. These big old overwrought phones. And there's just something about, you know, this really interesting shape, but then you just have, look at these switches, big levers, this spinning wheel. It's like, this is so inelegant, but it's also like just 100% utilitarian. I love it. Kind of along the same vein, just that beige enamel type look. This could match the boat pretty well, actually. No, this is great design reference. You got your circle, you got your arms, you got your big cylinder, and then you've got your kind of secondary shapes right here, and tertiary and quaternary shapes. I'm talking a little quiet because Lux's mom is sleeping in the workshop right now, and during the day, Lux has been building the spaceship, which is very cool. That's the best possible thing. But I can't record the videos while the table saws and everything are going, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to balance all of that stuff out timing wise. Maybe I'll just let this video be a little bit nonsense and we'll get into the actual modeling in the next video. Yeah. I think at this point that'll be a good idea because I'm a little tired. I want to upload this, and honestly, I just kind of want to get a video out of the pipe to help prime the pump a little bit because I want to start making a lot of videos. I really missed this. So yeah. And I did re-render this, although without this thing bouncing around, suddenly the rope sim feels a lot more dead. And that's actually one of the reasons I'm kind of obsessed with rigid body sims right now, is you put it on something and it kind of legitimizes the movement of what's going on underneath it. Like I kind of want to have a weird crane module or something parented to this that's like doing some sort of rigid body thing, just because it would really ground the movement of this boat a lot. Because right now the boat does feel a little bit noise modifiery. Also added a couple little blowing tassels from my little garbage asset. But yeah, okay. I will talk to you soon, and I think we'll try to make a video of modeling that monitor thing, because I don't think that'll actually be all that hard. Thanks for hanging out on this kind of all over the place video, but it's good to be back, and thanks for sticking around, and I will see you soon. All right.